You are listening to A Crimson Autumn, short stories written by Randy Woten, aka Ray McGuff, and read by me, Aaron England, aka Franklin Stein, or Franklin, whatever you want to say. If you want to call me Franklin, that's fine. I'm fine with Franklin. I kind of like it. Anyways, it's late at night. We're going to wrap this book up. This is the final story in A Crimson Autumn, The Love of Judy Stein. She keeps my heart in a mason jar on the third floor of our home. My heart, aged 24 years, sits in a locked closet on the third floor. It calls to me in the dead of night. It calls to me in the light of day. It calls to me in the twilight of the morning. Thump, 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 thump. Beats like ancient drums pierce my ears. My heart, she stole it from me. If you don't believe in the magic of science, stop reading now. My tale reeks of old world superstitions mixed with new world technology. For those of you with no imagination, you will find the things I'm about to tell you hard to believe. Those of you that choose to stick with me, you'll learn about the last days on this earth, and then you'll learn about the days after she brought me back into existence. My hope is that someone will find these scribbled notes. I hope that they will read my confession. I hope they will understand that I had to end it and why. I hope that they will love those that they have in this moment. And when the time comes, they will let those people go. Most of all, I hope to shine some light on Judy Stein. I want people to know the good in her and understand the darkness that befell both of us. My God, more than anything, I hope that those of you who choose to read further won't judge her. Or me. Judy once told me that I was her one true love. I believe that fact. I believe that love is what drove her to greatness and madness. I met Judy Stein in the summer of 1932. I, Randolph Wooten, was in my second year of medical school at a prestigious college in the heart of it all, Columbus, Ohio. My medical career aside, I wanted nothing more than to meet a young lady, fall madly in love, and start a family. I met Judy on campus. We were both overachievers, taking extra classes and working on campus to make a little extra cash. I wandered into her laboratory by complete accident, and the rest was history. I saw her standing there among the beakers, burners, and microscopes. Her dark brown hair in a ponytail hoisted over her right shoulder. Her pristine white lab coat hung over her meek frame. She was hunched over a lens, burning something in the air, and writing in a journal all at the same time when she called out to me.
Are you going to stand there and stare at me, or are you going to offer to help?
She smiled when she spoke, but never looked up from her journal. I stuttered out a platitude and shuffled over to help. The next thing I know, I'm burning an unknown substance at high temperatures while she continued to write. After several minutes of uncomfortable silence, she ordered me to drop the substance into a dish on the table in front of us both. I did as I was told and watched in amazement as the liquid turned to gas and the gas turned into a bright red cloud. At that moment, I didn't know if my mind was playing tricks on me or not, but that damn cloud looked like it had lightning coursing through its gaseous veins. After the cloud disappeared in front of our very eyes, we both took a moment to catch our breath. I spoke first aloud. "What in the hell did I just witness?" I said, looking at her in the eyes for the first time, those hazel eyes radiating with possibility.
You, sir, just witnessed my first successful attempt at creating a man-made thundercloud.
She smiled from ear to ear. "Well, I'll be damned, miss. I'm pretty young to be famous, but I guess I'll have to get used to it," I said, leaning back on the table and giving a coy smile.
You'll never be famous, sir. This study isn't for the public. It's my own private research. I'm looking for bigger applications of electricity.
She smiled at me once more and closed her journal, so that my prying eyes wouldn't wander across her groundbreaking research. To be honest, in that moment, research was the last thing I was thinking about. I was in an empty room with a beautiful, smart, and highly attractive woman. All I wanted more of in this moment was her. I wanted to know everything about her, so I introduced myself. I'm Randolph Wooten. My friends call me Dolph for short. What's your name? I extended my hand and she took hold of it ever so gently.
I'm Judy Stein. Nice to make your acquaintance, Dolph.
She let her hand linger in mine until I spoke again. Would you like to get a cup of coffee with me, Miss Stein? My treat. I know this little place down the street. They have decent coffee and terrific bagels, I say, letting go of her hand.
I'd like that very much, Dolph. Let me grab my coat,
she said as she took her lab coat off and hung it on the rack. She grabbed a drab green trench coat and walked towards me. The light in the lab was brighter in this moment. I don't know if it was a certain time of day or if it was a higher power putting a mark on this moment. Her hazel eyes shone like diamonds, and I knew in that moment I was in love.
Lead the way, sir,
she said gently as she took me by the arm. The rest of the day was a whirlwind. We spoke for hours about our hopes and dreams. Coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into a goodnight kiss. The goodnight kiss turned into staying the night. Then staying the night turned into her becoming my girl. Love works like that sometimes. The medical breakdown of it all was that our pheromones and hormones triggered at the same time. We imprinted on each other and the chemicals in our brains let love bloom. For Judy, it was the first time. For me, it was one of many. But to be fair, at that moment, that day, I would have traded all the other experiences to be with Judy in those moments forever. I died in the winter of 1933. I was driving my first automobile home for Christmas. Judy wanted to stay an extra day or two on campus during winter break. I drove home to northern Ohio for the holidays and drove back to surprise her on Christmas morning. My mother and father knew that I was going to ask Judy to be my wife. They had the ring. My mother had it sized, and my father had a special box built to present it to her. I still remember the smell of the wood and the family crest embroidered on the lid of the box. The roads were treacherous that day. A sea of farmland separated my hometown from the city of Columbus. When a heavy snow hits those areas, the roads become almost impassable. My inexperience behind the wheel and poor driving conditions led me to my death. I lost control of the car in a wooded area about 20 minutes outside the city. The car plunged into an icy river and I died almost immediately. Ice-cold water filled my lungs as the windows of the automobile broke in and flooded the car. My last gasps were painful and terrifying. I could see the wooden box floating before my eyes. With my last bit of energy, I reached out and grasped the box. Darkness took me as I felt the emblem on the lid with my hands. I, Randolph Wooten, ceased to be. That is until I wasn't dead. New Year's Day, 1934. I woke up, naked and cold, in Judy's arms. I shook and moaned. I couldn't feel anything at first. It was as if I was piloting my own body. But from a far distance, my mouth wouldn't form words. My eyes opened and closed on their own. My breathing was erratic and labored, but against all odds, I was back from the dead. Judy held me and cried. I let her warm tears fall on my cheek. I wanted to tell her about my last thoughts. I wanted to tell her about the ring in the box. But I couldn't speak. I let out several guttural roars and gave up talking. I held on to her and we both wept. Everything that happened to me next was a blur. I was put in a large bathtub. Judy warmed the water through some type of electrical system she built. I could tell we were in her lab on campus, but it was a mess. Papers aligned the walls, makeshift cords, piles of books, and that damned red mist hung in the air all around us. It gave off blue pulses in 30-second bursts. She tried to explain to me what she had done to bring me back, but my mind wasn't up to the challenge at this point. I let her talk and point at things. I let her give me a crash course on bringing back the dead. When she finished talking, my head was spinning, and I vomited bile all over the bathtub. Judy cleaned me up and put me into a makeshift bed in the corner. She hooked me up to another machine and told me to get some rest. She kissed my forehead. I felt pressure, but my sense of touch wasn't working. I drifted into a type of sleep. Sleep to the undead is a mess of electrical impulses jumping from this world to the next. The brain is an amazing and resilient organ. The problem is that my death had damaged that organ. I was dealing with a mind half as capable as I had before the accident. Undead anger is irrational. I grew angrier day after day. I felt my limitations in my own body. When I looked in a mirror, all I could see was a pale and grotesque creature, a shadow monster of the man I once was in the world. Judy couldn't understand why I wasn't progressing back to my normal state, and I didn't have the communication tools to explain myself. So day in and day out, she would come to the basement of this place and read to me. She moved me into the basement of the 3-story house she was renting. I found out in our courting phase that her parents were very rich. They were what my folks would have referred to as old money. She shunned her lineage for the most part, but every now and then she let her parents buy her lavish items. Renting this house must have been the "we're sorry your boyfriend died" gift. The place was made to mimic her lab. One morning, early as the sun was rising, I took my clothes off and stood in front of a full-body mirror I found in the piles of discarded stuff in this place. My home, my cell. I finally had some feelings back in one of my fingers. I ran it down the scar tissue in the middle of my chest. The classic autopsy V-section stuck out on my body. I held my hand over my heart, but felt no beat. I did feel something. I pressed my hand on it harder. I felt a whirring and a clicking. When I stood perfectly still, holding my breath, I could hear a ticking like an old clock. Frightened, I grabbed a scalpel off one of the many shelves of medical supplies Judy had stored in my room. I took the sharp blade and traced the upper portion of the V. I set the knife down and with both hands pulled back the skin. In the mirror, I saw the true monster I had become. 4 metal tubes protruded from a glass box in the center of my chest. On each end were makeshift valves that looked to be built from old clockworks. The glass box housed the red gas, and in the center I watched as an electrical storm brewed from where my heart should be beating. Judy was not pleased when she found me on the floor of the basement. I left my chest open and pointed as she walked into the room. A terror swept over her face that soon turned to anger. She told me that she would walk through the gates of hell itself to bring me back. She told me that I left her in the cold world all alone. She told me that she spent night and day on her designs. Judy Stein told me how she cheated death so that we could be together. She sewed my chest back up, dressed me in nice clothes, and took me to the second floor for dinner. The undead have no appetite. I don't know why. Maybe it was the fact that the fake heart no longer needed to pump blood to the rest of my body, and now pumped a gaseous electrical current. I pretended to enjoy the meal. We danced to her favorite record. We kissed. We made love. Hours after she fell asleep, when the house was completely silent, I heard it beating. I slowly arose from the bed. Thump, thump, thump. Ever so faint in the distance, I walked down the hall to the main staircase. I held my breath again until there was nothing but silence. Thump, thump, thump. Louder this time above my head. It was coming from the 3rd floor. I walked up the staircase. At the top, I found a row of closet doors. The door on the far left had a simple lock. Something else about the undead. Pain receptors are so dull that you can pull a lock right off the soft hinges of cedar board doors. I opened the closet door slowly, and there it was looking back at me. My heart, soaked in some sort of cocktail of chemicals, and as sure as I was back from the dead, the damn thing was beating. I lost track of time watching it, blood swirling around the valves as the muscle undulates before me.
Beautiful, isn't it?
I heard Judy's voice behind me and turned to meet her sad gaze. Those hazel eyes had lost the shine behind them. Madness? I used all my brain power to utter one word that I meant, one word to express all this insanity. I pushed the word from my lips into the silence of the hallway. Wrong. I pointed at my chest, at her, and finally at the jar on the shelf. Judy nodded and shut the door. She took me by the hand and led me back to the basement. She led me down the stairs to my makeshift bed. She tucked me in and kissed me. As she turned to head back to the 2nd floor, she stopped and spoke.
I did this all for you, Dolph. All of it. We'll figure it all out. But it's going to take time. Our love isn't wrong. You'll see.
She continued back up the stairs and shut the door. I heard the lock turn and the key. I was now a prisoner in my own body and in this house. Judy tried everything she could to fix my mind and body. Nothing worked. Attempt after attempt was met with failure. I could say words intermittently, but I couldn't form sentences. I could only write, point, and form a word from time to time like a Neanderthal. Judy went from madness to anger and back to madness. She spent all her time trying to fix me. She wanted to get me back to the way I was before the accident. But no amount of science or magic could take me back in time. I had to come to terms with the fact that I died in that crash. I was now stuck with one foot in the grave and one foot stuck right here in the real world. The emptiness was driving me crazy. Judy and I made love all the time, but it wasn't love anymore. It was two lost souls looking for release. So I wrote this all down today while she was at school taking her final exams. I locked and barricaded the doors. I've poured heating oil on every floor of this house, starting with the room that housed my heart. My next act will be to drop these pages into a metal box I've found. I will take a candle and drop it on the floor, igniting the oil. I will then walk slowly to the basement and drop my second and final candle. I'm hoping that the fire will melt this goddamn contraption in my chest and send me back to oblivion. If you find this letter, this confession, please forgive Judy Stein. She was blinded by love and loss. She knows not what she does. Please forgive me for destroying the monster I've become. If for some reason you're reading this next to a still moving burnt corpse, please rip the box from my chest and destroy it as quickly as possible. This is my plea, my last request. For my love, let me go. Sincerely, Randolph Wooten. Well, that's the book, guys. You can get this on Amazon for yourself. Read it for yourself. Honestly, buy it just to support Ray and the things he does. Because, he's our friend. He's your good Uncle Ray. And we love him here at ZTO. So thanks to everybody for listening. And look for new projects coming all the time from our group of idiots. Frank out.